This week,
we'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site, and get rid of the destroyed building.
Trump wants the U.S. to take control of Gaza by force if necessary. At state capitals across the country, protesters pushed back on what they call the authoritarian moves of the White House.
It is very traumatizing to go back to where it all started.
A proposal before state lawmakers would allow students who survive a school shooting to temporarily learn from home while they internalize the tragedy.
Students have been allowed to attend our schools regardless of their immigration status, and this is a really egregious step.
Tennessee Republicans attempt to reverse a 40-year-old Supreme Court decision ensuring the right to a free public education. The bill would let school districts and charter schools opt out of enrolling undocumented children.
I have, unfortunately for me, been advised that I only have a few months to live.
And a push 10 years ago to allow terminally ill people the right to die with dignity is back before state lawmakers. Hello again, and welcome to another edition of This Week. President Trump shocked the world this week, saying he wants the U.S. to take control of the Gaza Strip using troops if necessary. A proposal before lawmakers to allow student survivors of school shootings to learn from home for at least a while. 10 years ago, a firebrand politician fought for the right to die here in Tennessee. It is once again being debated again this year. And we begin with Trump backing down from his threat of imposing 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico.
After feverish last-minute talks, a truce in the looming trade war. Late tonight, after 2 phone calls with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, President Trump announcing the hefty 25% tariffs he threatened are now on pause, just hours before they were scheduled to go into effect. It came after a morning call with the president of Mexico, when Trump agreed to pause tariffs on that country's goods as well for 30 days. Trump's threats had sent markets tumbling overnight and into the morning, as economists warned the tariffs would send prices soaring for American consumers on everything from groceries to cars to electronics.
I'm not concerned. We may have short-term a little pain, and people understand that, but long-term, the United States has been ripped off by virtually every country in the world.
Both countries had vowed to retaliate. In Canada, American sports teams booed during the national anthem. Canadian liquor stores taking American whiskey off the shelves. The Wall Street Journal editorial page calling it, quote, the dumbest trade war in history. Overnight, Dow futures down hundreds of points.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
I don't know.
Thank you, guys. Let's go.
How is the market doing?
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Let's go.
I did? I don't know. I don't think about it.
Hours earlier, Trump cut that deal with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum. Mexico will now send 10,000 troops to the border to help tackle illegal immigration and to prevent fentanyl from flowing into the U.S.
Did you blink this morning?
There was no blinking. No, she's a wonderful woman, but she did agree to 10,000 soldiers on the border. I would say that's a lot. Would you say that's pretty good?
Negotiations with Canada took a little longer.
Canada is very tough. They're very, very tough to do business with.
But tonight, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau saying they have reached an agreement that in addition to Canada implementing its existing $1.3 billion border plan, Canada will appoint a new fentanyl czar, list cartels as terrorists, and launch a Canada-U.S. joint strike force to combat organized crime, fentanyl, and money laundering.
While tariffs are paused for now, any future tariffs on any product could impact Tennesseans and Tennessee businesses negatively. News 2 State Capitol reporter Tori Gessner explains the potential impact.
It's a volunteer state staple that brings in big business. But President Trump's tariffs could put the Tennessee whiskey industry and others like it on the rocks.
There is so much cost and very little benefit to this.
Experts estimate the president's tariffs on goods imported from Canada, Mexico, and China will be passed on to the consumer, costing Tennesseans more at the grocery store, car dealership, and other places that sell imported goods. Democratic State Senator Jeff Yarbrough says tariffs would not only impact the consumer, but businesses in Tennessee.
That would be farmers. It would be a huge blow to the auto manufacturing industry and auto workers, because we probably import a lot of parts from Mexico. We actually export a lot of vehicles to Canada. And so starting a trade war with both at the same time is pretty counterproductive.
And if countries retaliate with their own tariffs, alcohol industry bodies in the U.S., Mexico, and Canada say the impact would be deeply concerning for items like Tennessee whiskey, specifically calling Tennessee whiskey a, quote, distinctive product whose trading partners and domestic industries would be negatively impacted by tariffs in a joint statement.
The Canadians and Mexicans governments are both super aware of what the political dynamics in the United States are, and so they were very much targeting red states. And so industries like Tennessee whiskey or Kentucky bourbon are high on the list of things that are very good symbolic fights within a tariff war.
But President Trump and Republicans argue the impacts would only be temporary, and they're worth it to crack down on the country's roles in illegal immigration and the influx of fentanyl into the U.S.
We put tariffs on. They owe us a lot of money, and I'm sure they're going to pay.
Senator Marsha Blackburn posting on X, quote, Mexico and Canada are going to learn the hard way. But Senator Yarbrough says it could backfire, hurting Tennesseans and their businesses, helping our foreign competitors in the end.
As President Trump works to dismantle parts of the federal government, he met with the Israeli Prime Minister, responded to retaliatory tariffs from China, and discussed doing away with the Department of Education, and most shockingly, said the U.S. should take ownership of the Gaza Strip.
A flurry of activity at the White House as President Trump moves to remake the federal government. Trump also reacting to Chinese President Xi Jinping's retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods. Trump saying he's in no rush to meet with the Chinese leader.
It's fine. It's fine. We're going to do very well against China and against everybody else.
China implementing a series of tariffs on select U.S. goods like coal, liquefied natural gas, and crude oil to take effect next Monday. This coming after Trump implemented 10% tariffs on Chinese goods. The president also saying he wants to dismantle the Department of Education and have Congress pass legislation to shut it down. Trump saying states should have more power over education policies.
I believe strongly in school choice, but in addition to that, I want the states to run schools.
Trump's latest effort comes as Democratic lawmakers push back on the elimination of the U.S. Agency for International Development, which allocates billions of dollars in foreign aid. The move made by Elon Musk designated a special government employee by the White House.
It's going to be a contest here about who's really in charge.
President Trump also meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the first foreign leader to meet with Trump during his second term. Trump argued Palestinians have no choice but to leave Gaza.
They have never had a chance at life because the Gaza Strip has been a hellhole for people living there. It's been horrible.
Trump encouraging Egypt or Jordan to take in Palestinians, despite both countries and the Palestinian people rejecting that idea.
We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development.
Jacqueline Lee, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Donald Trump, go away! In cities across the nation, including here in Nashville, citizens protested in front of state capitals, opposing what they call the authoritarian moves of the Trump administration.
I fought against dictators overseas for my entire adult life. I never thought I was going to have to come back home and fight against dictators in Washington and here in the governor's mansion in Florida.
Every single person who is an American, who lives in America, deserves basic human rights.
Trump's supporters were also visible at these demonstrations.
This is democracy. People voted for him to do the things that he's doing.
Now to our This Week cover story. A controversial cover story. Students who survive a school shooting may get the choice to temporarily learn from home. The proposed legislation, which would require a virtual learning option after an act of mass violence at a school, came after the deadly Antioch High School shooting last month. State Capitol reporter Tori Gessner explains how it would work.
If the bill passed, this is what learning could look like for students who choose after a school shooting. The bill would require school districts to provide a virtual learning option for at least 31 days. It's something some parents at Antioch High School wanted for their kids after the deadly shooting there last month. The school reopened less than a week after the shooting. Students returned to mental health counselors and other support. Even then, some told us they felt like it was too soon to return to the building because the area the shooting happened hadn't even been cleared out. Dr. Aaron Brennan, a Vanderbilt University Medical Center assistant professor and psychologist, says finding the right time to return to school after a traumatic event is a delicate balance. Putting it off for too long could lead to bigger issues.
Individuals who engage in a high amount of avoidance after a traumatic event are more likely to develop PTSD because they're starting to engage in the pattern that is a part of PTSD, that avoidance of the memory and avoidance of the things in their life that remind them of the memory.
The bill, sponsored by 2 Democrats, was just filed. It's unclear whether the state or the school district would have to pay for that virtual learning option. Reporting in Nashville, Tori Gessner, News 2.
When we come back, we discuss a renewed push for the right to die here in Tennessee. Stay with us. This Week continues in a moment.